In the unforgiving desert of Sonora Valley, what began as a routine missing persons investigation would uncover the most elaborate criminal fortress ever discovered by American military intelligence. A 100,000 square foot underground complex, buried beneath an unassuming abandoned resort, contained something that would change the face of cartel investigations forever. The Aguila Negra cartel hadn't just built a hideout, they'd constructed an invisible empire complete with advanced weapons manufacturing, sophisticated communication systems, and a command center coordinating operations across 3 continents. For CID Special Agent Marcus Reeves, a decorated Army veteran with 15 years of field experience, this discovery would trigger the largest joint military-civilian operation in CID history. But as his team descended into the labyrinthine depths of the complex, they realized this wasn't just about drugs or weapons. It was about something far more sinister. What they found in that underground fortress would expose a network so vast it would take 8 months of round-the-clock operations, 4 federal agencies, and unprecedented international cooperation to begin dismantling it. The scorching Arizona sun beat down mercilessly as Reeves studied the satellite imagery of the dilapidated La Paloma resort. Once a popular destination for wealthy tourists seeking desert luxury, the property had fallen into disrepair after the economic crash of 2008. Official records showed it had been purchased 3 years ago by a multinational hospitality group. But according to local sources, no renovation work had ever begun. The resort remained abandoned, at least on the surface. "These heat signatures don't make any sense," Reeves muttered, pointing to the thermal imaging on his tablet. The abandoned resort showed unusual hotspots that didn't align with typical desert thermal patterns. Special Agent Diana Torres, a former Navy intelligence officer specializing in thermal imaging analysis, nodded in agreement. "We've been tracking these anomalies for weeks. Whatever's generating that heat is at least 50 feet underground, and it's drawing massive power. An abandoned resort shouldn't be drawing any power," Reeves noted, his weathered face furrowing with suspicion. His years tracking criminal organizations had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, every instinct was screaming that something was very wrong at La Paloma. The investigation had begun 3 months earlier when the son of a prominent Phoenix businessman disappeared while hiking near the abandoned resort. Local police had conducted a standard search, found nothing, and eventually classified it as another unfortunate case of an inexperienced hiker lost to the desert. But the businessman had connections, including a former Army buddy now working at the Pentagon, and soon the CID had been called in to take a closer look. What started as a courtesy investigation quickly evolved into something much more complex. When Reeves discovered that 7 people had gone missing in the vicinity of La Paloma over the past 18 months. None of the disappearances had been connected until now, and all had been written off as hiking accidents, runaways, or voluntary disappearances. "Command, this is Agent Reeves beginning perimeter assessment of the La Paloma property." He spoke into his secure comms. "Copy that, Agent Reeves," came the response from the mobile command center stationed 5 miles away. "Be advised we're picking up unusual electromagnetic interference in your sector." "Roger that. We've noticed it too. Our equipment's been glitchy since we got within 2 miles of the resort." Torres adjusted her specialized goggles, designed to detect subtle variations in the landscape that might indicate hidden structures or recently disturbed Earth. The interference is stronger on the north side of the property. Something's generating a lot of electronic noise out here. A sudden movement caught Reeves's attention. A dust cloud was rising from behind, a cluster of deteriorating bungalows. He signaled Torres to take cover behind an outcropping of sun-bleached rocks. Through his high-powered binoculars, Reeves observed a rugged, all-terrain vehicle emerging from what appeared to be a service road. Two men dressed in casual desert attire that couldn't quite hide their military bearing scanned the perimeter before speeding away toward the main highway. "Definitely not maintenance workers," Torres whispered. "Definitely not," Reeves agreed, snapping several photos with his specialized long-range camera. "Those are trained personnel. The way they checked sight lines, the disciplined movement, these aren't just cartel thugs." As the ATV disappeared from view, Reeves and Torres continued their careful approach toward the main resort structure. The Spanish colonial-style building that had once welcomed wealthy vacationers now stood like a sentinel in the desert. Windows boarded, once elegant facades crumbling under the relentless sun. "You shouldn't be here, Agent Reeves," came a voice from behind a dilapidated poolside bar. Both agents drew their weapons in one fluid motion, training them on the source of the voice. An elderly man emerged, hands raised. His weathered face told the story of decades under the desert sun. "Miguel Sanchez," he introduced himself. "I used to be the groundskeeper here before." He gestured vaguely at the abandoned resort. "Before what, Mr. Sanchez?" Reeves asked, lowering his weapon slightly, but remaining alert. "Before the devils." "Uncame," Sanchez replied, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "The Águila Negra. They're different from the others. More organized, more patient." Torres kept her weapon trained on the man. "What do you know about the missing hikers?" Sanchez's eyes darted nervously toward the main building. "They weren't hikers, not all of them. Some were curious, like you. The eagles see everything in the desert." "Eagles?" Reeves questioned. "Águila Negra," Torres translated. "Black Eagle Cartel. They're relatively new, emerged about 5 years ago. Intelligence suggests they're an offshoot of one of the larger cartels, but they've been growing rapidly, especially in the weapons. Trade." Sanchez nodded vigorously. "They're not like the others. They don't just control territory. They build things, underground, hidden." "What kind of things?" Reeves pressed. "I don't know exactly. I just know that big trucks came at night for months. Equipment, materials, people. They dug down, down, down." He gestured with his hand. "Many of the workers never came back up." "Why are you still here, Mr. Sanchez?" Torres asked, suspicion evident in her voice. "They let me stay in my old quarters. I'm just an old man who takes care of the cactus garden. They think I don't see, don't hear. But I do." He stepped closer, lowering his voice further. "You need to go now. If they see you talking to me, we can protect you," Reeves offered. Sanchez laughed, a bitter sound like sand scraping stone. "No one can protect anyone from them. They have eyes everywhere, technologies I don't understand. Just go before—" The distant sound of an engine cut him off. His eyes widened with fear. "Too late. They're coming back. Go. West Service entrance. The cameras there don't work since the last monsoon damaged them." Without waiting for a response, Sanchez hurried back toward a small outbuilding, hunched over as if trying to make himself smaller. Reeves and Torres exchanged a glance before quickly retreating toward the western edge of the property. They moved with the precision of their military training, using the decaying resort structures as cover. Back at the mobile command center, the team pored over the new information and images Reeves and Torres had gathered. "What exactly are we Looking at? Asked Director Eleanor Vance, a stern-faced woman who had risen through the ranks of Army intelligence before taking over the CID's southwestern operations. Reeves pointed to the thermal imaging display. These heat signatures match industrial-scale operations. Look at these patterns: power generation, water recycling, air circulation. This isn't random activity, it's systematic, organized, and definitely not consistent with an abandoned resort, Torres added. She manipulated the display to show a comparison between the current thermal readings and those from 6 months earlier. The activity has increased by approximately 300% in the last half year. Whatever they're doing down there, they're ramping it up. Technical specialist Raj Patel, a former Army Corps of Engineers expert who had joined the CID after 2 tours in Afghanistan, studied the structural analysis. Based on these readings, we're looking at a multi-level underground facility. The main heat signatures are coming from approximately 70 feet below the surface, but there are indications of activity as deep as 150 feet. That's not just a basement or a tunnel, Vance observed. That's a complex. Exactly, Reeves agreed, and building something that extensive would require serious engineering expertise, not to mention enormous resources. The Águila Negra cartel has been on our radar, but they've maintained a relatively low profile compared to some of the larger organizations, said intelligence analyst Cameron Wright, pulling up a file on the cartel. They emerged around 2017, supposedly founded by former Special Forces personnel from several countries who decided crime paid better than military service. That would explain the discipline we observed, Torres noted. Wright continued. They've been steadily expanding their operations, focusing primarily on weapons trafficking and specialized training for other criminal organizations. Unlike most cartels, they don't seem particularly interested in controlling territory for drug trafficking. They're more consultants. Consultants with 100,000 square foot underground base, Reeves said grimly. A lone hawk circled above the La Paloma resort as Reeves made his way back to the command center. The information from Sanchez weighed heavily on his mind. For decades, La Paloma had been a landmark in Sonora Valley until it suddenly closed with little explanation. The official story involved bankruptcy and ownership disputes, but now Reeves wondered if more sinister forces had been at work even then. Pull up the property records, Reeves instructed Wright. Show me everything from the past decade. Previous owners, sale prices, permit applications, everything. Wright's fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up documents on the multiple displays. La Paloma Resort was originally developed in 1985 by Southwest Luxury Properties, operated successfully until 2008, when the recession hit. Struggled for a few years, then closed permanently in 2011. Remained vacant until 2020, when it was purchased by Global Hospitality Investments. What do we know about Global Hospitality Investments? Vance asked. That's where it gets interesting, Wright replied, pulling up corporate registration documents. GHI was incorporated in the Cayman Islands just 3 months before the La Paloma purchase. They've acquired a total of 7 distressed resort properties across the southwestern northern Mexico, but there's no record of them renovating or reopening any of them. Shell company, Torres concluded. Almost certainly, Wright agreed. The incorporation documents list executives with impressive resumes, but deeper background checks show inconsistencies. These people either don't exist or their identities have been expertly fabricated. Reeves studied the purchasing patterns on the map. These properties form a rough corridor from central Mexico up through Arizona and into Nevada, all remote, all with significant acreage, all with existing structures that would justify construction equipment and materials being brought in without raising suspicion. "You think La Paloma isn't the only underground facility?" Vance asked, though her tone suggested she already suspected the answer. "I think we've stumbled onto one node of a much larger network," Reeves confirmed. Patel had been quietly working at another station, analyzing the satellite imagery from the past 3 years. "Take a look at this," he said, bringing up a time-lapse of the La Paloma property. "You can see here when the construction began. Small at first, equipment deliveries, personnel movement. Then about 18 months ago, activity spikes significantly. The images revealed a pattern. What began as occasional supply deliveries evolved into something more systematic. Trucks arriving at precise intervals, always at night. Construction equipment that never left the property. Workers who seemed to vanish into the resort and never emerged. There's your probable cause," Patel noted, highlighting various data points. "The power consumption spiked dramatically 15 months ago, right after those heavy equipment deliveries. And no building permits filed with any county or state agency." As the team continued analyzing the data, a convoy of unmarked vehicles approached the mobile command center. Director James Hargrove, head of the CID's Special Operations Division, had arrived from Washington with additional personnel and resources. Hargrove, a tall, imposing figure with salt and pepper hair and the bearing of the career military officer he had been, wasted no time on pleasantries. "Bring me up to speed," he ordered as he entered the command center. Vance and Reeves quickly outlined their findings, while Torres prepared a detailed briefing package. "So you're telling me that one of the most sophisticated cartels in the hemisphere has built what amounts to an underground fortress less than 40 miles from a major US city, and nobody noticed until now?" Hargrove's tone was skeptical, but his expression showed concern. "They've been extremely careful, sir," Reeves explained. "The property purchase was legal. The location is remote, but not suspiciously so. The previous resort operations provide cover for the scale of the facility, and they've clearly got advanced counter-surveillance measures in place." Hargrove studied the thermal imaging with a practiced eye. "This isn't amateur hour. This is professional-grade construction. Military, engineering standards. That aligns with what we know about Águila Negra, sir," Wright added. "Their leadership includes former military engineers and special forces operators from multiple countries." Hargrove turned to Vance. "Have you brought in Homeland Security or the FBI yet?" "Negative, sir," Vance replied. "Given the potential military connection and the sophisticated nature of the operation, we wanted your assessment first." "Good call," Hargrove nodded. "This has national security implications. We need to carefully control the flow of information until we know exactly what we're dealing with." He turned to the assembled team. "As of now, this is a classified operation. We'll designate it Operation Desert Eagle." The Arizona sun beat down mercilessly as Hargrove assembled the tactical team. Their faces were grim with determination as he outlined the preliminary plan. "This won't be a normal operation," Hargrove announced. "Full tactical sweep with specialized equipment and personnel. Whatever's down there, we need to catch them off guard." Reeves studied the thermal imaging one last time. The underground complex pulsed with activity like a living organism, but something didn't add up. The security patrols, the personnel movements, they're too perfect, too precise. he observed. Almost like... Like what, Reeves? Hargrove prompted. The old mining tunnel, stretched into darkness, its earthen walls telling stories of a bygone era. Miguel Sanchez's information had proven accurate. The entrance, hidden behind decades of overgrown desert vegetation and fallen rocks, led deeper into the earth than any official map showed. The air grew cooler as Reeves led the small tactical team through the narrow passage, while the main force maintained position above ground, prepared to execute the diversionary assault on the resort's main entrance. These support beams are new, Reeves observed, running his hand along a smooth wooden beam that contrasted sharply with the weathered, rotting ones surrounding it. Someone's been maintaining this section recently. Torres examined the beam with her tactical flashlight. Look at the cuts. Clean, precise, professional carpentry, not amateur work. The team advanced carefully through the winding tunnel, their footsteps echoing against walls that had witnessed a century of desert secrets. Each member moved with the disciplined silence that came from years of military and law enforcement. Training. Above them, the main force prepared for the synchronized breach, unaware that they were about to stumble into something far bigger than a typical cartel hideout. "Movement ahead," whispered Staff Sergeant Malik Johnson, the team's point man and a former Delta Force operator who'd joined CID after 3 tours in the Middle East. He raised a closed fist, signaling the team to halt. Reeves moved forward to Johnson's position, activating his thermal imaging goggles. Heat signatures behind that wall, approximately 30 feet ahead. "Hold position," he instructed the team. "Torres, what are you seeing?" Torres adjusted her specialized scanning equipment, designed to detect electromagnetic fields and structural anomalies. Multiple targets, they're organized, moving in patrol patterns, but there's something else. She fine-tuned the settings. Larger chambers beyond the initial rooms. This tunnel is going to intersect with a much more substantial structure. The team settled into position, preparing their equipment while Reeves contacted the command center. "Eagle Actual, this is Reaper 1. We've confirmed tunnel access to the target facility, preparing to breach an internal wall approximately 200 meters from entry point. Detecting multiple heat signatures and significant structural development. Ahead." Hargrove's voice crackled through the secure comm system. "Copy that, Reaper 1. Eagle 2 is in position for diversionary assault. Synchronize your breach to coincide with their entry. Execute on my mark in 15 minutes. "Roger that," Reeves acknowledged, checking his watch and synchronizing the timer. He turned to his team, keeping his voice low. "Listen up. Once we breach, we're likely entering hostile territory with unknown numbers and capabilities. Priority 1 is securing intelligence on the facility's purpose and operations. Priority 2 is identifying leadership and command structure. We move fast, we move quiet, and we stay together." The team nodded, their faces showing the grim determination of veterans who understood the risks. Each checked their weapons, communication, systems, and specialized equipment one final time. As the minutes ticked down, Torres approached Reeves. "Something isn't adding up," she whispered. "What do you mean?" "The electromagnetic interference patterns. They're too regular, almost artificially consistent." She showed him the readings on her scanner. "Natural EM fields fluctuate, but these are maintaining precise patterns. It's like they're being generated deliberately." Reeves frowned. "Counter-surveillance?" "Maybe," Torres replied, "or something else entirely. The timer on Reeves's watch reached the 2-minute warning. He signaled the team to final positions. Johnson and Specialist Rivera, a former combat engineer, moved to the earthen wall that separated them from the facility, placing shaped breaching charges at strategic points. "Charges set," Rivera confirmed. "Remote detonation ready." "Eagle actual. This is Reaper 1. Reeves spoke into his comm. "Breach charges in place, standing by for execution." "Copy that, Reaper 1, Hargrove replied. "Eagle 2 confirms ready status. All units execute on my mark. 3, 2, 1, execute." Rivera triggered the detonator. The shaped charges blew with controlled precision, creating an opening in the earthen wall while minimizing the risk of tunnel collapse. Simultaneously, they could hear the distant sounds of the main assault team breaching the resort's primary entrance above ground. As the dust settled, Johnson moved through the opening, weapon raised, followed by Torres and the rest of the team. Reeves took up the rear, ensuring no one was left behind as they entered the unknown. The first sign that this wasn't an ordinary cartel tunnel came when they emerged into a corridor with smooth concrete walls, recessed LED lighting, and what appeared to be a sophisticated ventilation system. "What the hell?" Johnson muttered, voicing what everyone was thinking. The corridor stretched in both directions, disappearing into darkness beyond the reach of their tactical lights. The floor was polished concrete, the ceiling equipped with what appeared to be environmental sensors and security cameras. "This isn't cartel construction," Rivera observed, examining the precision of the work. "This is military grade, professional engineers, imported materials. They've been planning this for years." Through the complex's ventilation system, they could hear fragments of conversation, urgent voices speaking rapidly in Spanish, interspersed with bursts of English technical terminology. Words like containment protocols, secure the research, wing and data purge floated through the air. "Breach team in position," Reeves reported quietly into his comm. "We're inside what appears to be a sophisticated underground facility. Professional construction, advanced infrastructure. Proceeding to gather intelligence." "Copy that." Hargrove's voice came back, the sound of gunfire in the background. "Be advised, Eagle 2 is encountering heavy resistance at the main entrance. Professional operators, military-grade weapons. They were definitely expecting us. Proceed with extreme caution." "Understood," Reeves acknowledged. He turned to the team. "We move in 2-by-2 formation. Johnson and Rivera on point, Torres and Patel in the middle for technical assessment. Chen and I will cover rear. Keep comm discipline and watch for surveillance." The team began moving down the corridor, choosing the direction that seemed to lead deeper into the facility rather than back toward the resort. They passed several unmarked doors, checking each one methodically. Most were storage rooms containing supplies, maintenance equipment, or empty crates. After approximately 200 meters, the corridor opened into a larger area with multiple pathways branching in different directions. Signs on the walls provided direction in both Spanish and English to various facility sections: barracks, communications, R&D, manufacturing, command, and holding. "What kind of cartel needs an R&D department?" Chen whispered. "The kind that's planning something bigger than drug smuggling," Reeves replied grimly. "Torres, Patel, any read on which direction would give us the most valuable intelligence?" Torres consulted her scanner. "Highest concentration of electronic activity is coming from the command direction. Communications would be second." "Command. It is," Reeves decided. That's where we'll find what they're really doing here. The team moved cautiously toward the command section, encountering surprisingly little resistance. The facility seemed to be in the midst of an evacuation protocol, with most personnel focused on the main assault at the resort entrance. "Execute on my mark," Reeves instructed as they positioned themselves outside a set of reinforced doors marked Command Center in both Spanish and English. 3, 2, 1, mark! Johnson and Rivera breached the door with practiced efficiency, entering in the standard tactical formation with Torres, Patel, Chen and Reeves following in sequence. They secured the room in seconds, but what they found stopped them in their tracks. "Mother of God," whispered Rivera. The command center was unlike anything they'd expected from a cartel operation. Multiple large screens displayed global maps with highlighted locations across 5 continents. Sophisticated communications equipment lined the walls, along with server racks housing what appeared to be high-end computing systems. Workstations were arranged in a semicircle, each equipped with multiple monitors displaying different types of data: surveillance feeds, financial information, personnel files, and what looked like weapon schematics. "This isn't just a hideout," Torres said, already moving to one of the computer terminals. "This is a full-scale operations center, military-grade. Check for personnel," Reeves ordered, but the command center appeared to have been evacuated in haste. Coffee cups were still warm, chairs pushed back as if their occupants had left in a hurry. "We've got company," Chen called from her position at the door. "Multiple hostiles approaching from the east corridor." "Secure that entrance," Reeves ordered. "Torres, download whatever data you can. We need to know what they're planning." Gunfire erupted in the corridor outside. Johnson and Rivera took defensive positions, returning controlled bursts while Chen provided covering fire. "These aren't street thugs," Johnson called back. "Professional tactics, fire discipline, former military for sure." In the chaos, Reeves spotted something crucial on the main display: a map showing what appeared to be a network of similar facilities across North and South America, Europe, and Asia. Each location was marked with a status indicator and specialized designation. "This isn't just a local operation," he realized. "It's global." Torres was working frantically at one of the terminals. "I'm copying their database, but they've initiated some kind of emergency purge protocol. Data's being wiped as we speak. Get whatever you can," Reeves instructed. "Focus on operational plans and leadership structure." The gunfight in the corridor intensified. Chen took cover as a barrage of bullets impacted the reinforced doorframe. "We can't hold this position much longer," she warned. "Fall back to checkpoint Charlie," Reeves ordered. "They're trying to seal the sectors. We need to move." The team began a fighting retreat, with Johnson and Rivera providing covering fire while the others fell back in sequence. Torres disconnected from the terminal, a portable drive now containing whatever data she'd managed to salvage from the system. As they moved through the facility, they encountered increasing resistance. Aguila Negra security forces emerged from multiple directions, their tactics revealing professional training. These weren't ordinary cartel soldiers. They moved with the precision and discipline of special forces operators. East corridor blocked, Johnson reported as they reached an intersection. "Heavy opposition. West route," Reeves decided quickly. According to the facility map, it should lead toward their manufacturing section. Might give us more intel on what they're producing here. The team changed direction, moving through a series of corridors that grew wider and higher as they progressed. The sounds of the main battle above ground could be heard faintly through the ceiling. suggesting the diversionary assault was meeting significant resistance. Eagle Actual, this is Reaper 1, Reeves reported between bursts of gunfire. We've entered what appears to be a command and control facility for a global operation. Architecture and equipment suggest military-grade installation, encountering heavy professional resistance, attempting to secure additional intelligence on facility purpose. Copy that, Reaper 1. Hargrove's voice came back, strained and punctuated by the sounds of combat. Be advised, Eagle 2 is taking heavy casualties. Whatever they're protecting, it's valuable enough to die for. Get whatever intel you can and find an extraction route. As the team pushed forward, they entered a large open area that appeared to be the manufacturing section, referenced on the facility map. What they found there elevated the situation from concerning to alarming. The vast chamber housed assembly lines, testing stations, and quality control checkpoints, all devoted to weapons manufacturing. But these weren't ordinary firearms. The team moved through the area, documenting what they saw with their tactical cameras. These are next-generation weapon systems, Torres observed, examining components on one of the assembly tables. Prototype designs, advanced materials, some of these concepts aren't even in production for most militaries yet. Check this out, Patel called from a nearby workstation. He'd accessed a computer terminal that displayed technical specifications for what appeared to be a handheld electromagnetic pulse generator. They're developing non-standard weapons, EMP devices, sonic disruptors, network targeting systems. This goes way beyond typical cartel operations, Reeves said, the implications becoming clearer with each discovery. They're not just smuggling weapons. They're developing and manufacturing advanced systems. For who? Chen asked, the question hanging in the air as they continued their assessment. The team moved deeper into the manufacturing area, documenting everything they could while maintaining defensive positions against potential counterattacks. The facility's true purpose was becoming evident. The Aguila Negra cartel had evolved beyond traditional criminal activities into something far more sophisticated and dangerous. Server room located southeast quadrant, Patel reported, pointing to a reinforced door at the far end of the manufacturing floor. That should contain their technical databases, client lists, maybe even their research and development files. We need that data, Reeves decided. It could reveal who they're supplying and what they're planning next. Johnson, Rivera. Secure. A path. Everyone else, prepared to download everything they've got. They're going to start purging data any minute if they haven't already. The team moved with renewed purpose toward the server room, encountering sporadic resistance that they dealt with efficiently. As they approached the reinforced door, Torres's scanner indicated unusual energy readings. Something's not right, she warned. I'm picking up power fluctuations consistent with data deletion protocols. They're wiping the servers. Breach it. Now, Reeves ordered. Rivera placed a shaped charge on the door lock, and the team took cover. The controlled explosion blew the locking mechanism, allowing them to force the door open and enter the server room. Inside, rows of high-end servers hummed with activity, lights flashing rapidly as data was being systematically erased. Can we stop it? Reeves asked as Torres and Patel rushed to the main control terminals. Too late for a full recovery, Patel replied, fingers flying across the keyboard. But I might be able to interrupt the process and salvage partial data. Give me 3 minutes. "You've got two," Reeves informed him, as the sounds of approaching security forces echoed down the corridor. "Johnson, Rivera, Chen, defensive positions. Buy them time." As Patel worked to salvage what data he could, Torres examined the server. Configuration. This setup, it's not just for weapons manufacturing. They're running massive data analytics, encrypted communications networks, global surveillance systems. This is beyond cartel operations. This is nation-state level capability. An explosion rocked the facility, causing dust and small debris to fall from the ceiling. The main assault team had likely breached deeper into the underground complex. Patel announced, disconnecting a portable drive from the system. Partial database recovered. Client lists, supply chains, some of their research files. Not everything, but enough to start piecing together their operation. Time to go, Reeves decided. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. You're here early. The surveillance. Van's interior was thick with tension as technical specialist Raj Patel monitored the incoming data feeds. Multiple communications channels had been tracked, leaving the Aguila Negra compound, splitting off in different directions along encrypted pathways that stretched across the southwestern United States and deep into Mexico. Target Alpha heading north on Route 15, Patel reported, his eyes fixed on the digital mapping screen. Two escort vehicles consistent with previous patterns we've observed from their security details. Reeves's voice crackled through the secure communication system. Maintain distance. We need to confirm the full route before moving in. 3 weeks had passed since the raid on the La Paloma resort complex. The operation had cost the lives of 4 tactical team members and left 11 others wounded, but the intelligence gathered from the underground facility had proven invaluable. The CID-led task force had identified 3 major distribution channels for the Aguila Negra's weapons and technology, each carefully designed to mask the true destination of the shipments. Second convoy spotted at Checkpoint Charlie, Torres reported from her surveillance position along Interstate 8. 4 vehicles matching the description from last week's reconnaissance. Black SUVs with custom suspensions and diplomatic plates. Reeves's team was positioned along the eastern route, tracking a suspicious freight truck that had departed from a warehouse in Phoenix 2 hours earlier. The warehouse had been identified from data recovered during the La Paloma operation. Targets maintaining speed, Johnson confirmed through his comms. No signs they've made us. They're maintaining standard highway protocols, switching lead vehicles every 30 minutes. Through weeks of intensive surveillance, they'd mapped out an intricate web of warehouses, front companies, and corrupt officials that formed the Aguila Negra's North American distribution network. But the cartel always seemed one step ahead. Their security protocols evolving constantly, as if they anticipated law enforcement's next move. Movement at the warehouse, Torres noted from her position. Loading Dock B active. Profile matches previous patterns from Tuesday's operation. Director Hargrove added from the mobile command center. Same time window as last Thursday. They're following their established schedule. The task force had learned to recognize the subtle signs, the timing of shift changes, the rotation of security personnel, the seemingly random variations in routes that actually followed a careful logic, designed to evade detection. Third convoy confirmed on western approach, reported Specialist Chen from her position near the California border. Estimated 10 minutes from junction point. Reeves's strategy relied on precise timing. They needed all 3 operations to synchronize. Perfectly. One mistake, one early move, and months of work would dissolve into chaos, potentially allowing the main Águila Negra leadership to slip away again. All units maintain position, Reeves ordered. Wait for my signal. Inside the Phoenix warehouse, security personnel followed their usual routine: perimeter checks, camera sweeps, guard rotations. Nothing suggested they had detected the extensive surveillance operation monitoring their every move. Target Alpha passing mile marker 45, Patel updated. Escort vehicles maintaining standard formation. Inside the compound, Águila Negra operations continued with military precision. Years of experience had taught them the value of discipline, of patterns that looked random to outsiders, but served specific purposes for those who understood the system. Loading dock secured, Torres reported. Truck departing through North Gate. Patel tracked the vehicle movements on his screens, watching the pieces of the operation fall into place. Each convoy represented a different aspect of Águila Negra's operation: weapons, technical equipment, and specialized personnel. Second convoy approaching checkpoint Delta, Johnson confirmed. No deviation from expected route. The task force had positioned its assets carefully, building redundancies into their plan. If one team missed their window, others would be ready to adapt and compensate. All units report status, Reeves commanded. Team 1 in position, came Torres's immediate response. Team 2 ready, Johnson confirmed. Team 3 standing by, Chen reported. The waiting was always the hardest part. Hours of surveillance, watching patterns emerge and dissolve, looking for the perfect moment to strike. Patience was the key to successful intelligence operations, but even seasoned veterans felt the tension building as the moment of action approached. Target vehicles converging on Sector 7, Patel announced. 3 minutes to intercept point. The Águila Negra had grown confident in their operations, falling into routines they believed were secure. This predictability would be their undoing. Reeves had assured the team during the planning phase. Confirm visual on all primary targets, Reeves requested. Telemetry matches previous operations, Patel confirmed, checking the GPS signals against their established patterns. All vehicles, maintaining expected routes and speeds. The task force had planned for every contingency. Emergency response units were staged at strategic locations, ready to react if the situation escalated beyond the primary team's capabilities. Team 4, reporting suspicious activity at secondary location, Chen reported suddenly. Possible counter-surveillance. Team observed near the warehouse district. Maintain distance, Reeves ordered. Priority remains on primary targets. We can't afford to spook them now. The operation hinged on coordination. Each team needed to strike simultaneously, preventing any targets from warning the others. Years of experience had taught them that cartel operations were like chess matches. Success depended on anticipating moves, planning multiple steps ahead. Team 2, target approaching your position, Patel warned. 30 seconds. The warehouse security remained focused outward, unaware of the net slowly closing around them. All units prepare to execute, Reeves instructed. Await final confirmation. Patel watched the pieces align on his screens. 3 convoys, 3 teams, one chance to cripple the Águila Negra's distribution network. Target Alpha passing final marker. Second convoy in position. Third target confirmed on approach. Reeves's voice was steady, controlled. All units execute on my mark. The moment stretched. tension building as each team waited for the command that would trigger months of planning into action. 3, 2, 1, execute! The night erupted with coordinated precision. Multiple teams converged on their targets simultaneously, leaving no room for escape or warning. Team 1 engaging, Torres reported. Team 2 moving in. Johnson confirmed. Team 3 securing perimeter. Chen acknowledged. The element of surprise was total. The Águila Negra's security protocols, so carefully maintained, crumbled in the face of overwhelming force. Primary target secured, Torres announced. Secondary convoy contained, Johnson reported. Warehouse perimeter breached, Chen confirmed. Patel monitored the chaos on his screens, watching years of careful planning pay off in minutes of decisive action. All targets confirmed secured, Reeves declared, beginning evidence collection and processing. The operation had succeeded beyond their expectations. 3 major distribution routes interrupted, key personnel captured, vital evidence secured. Preliminary inventory confirms intel, Torres reported from the warehouse. Weapons match the manufacturing specs from the La Paloma facility. We've found prototype EMP devices, advanced targeting systems, and what appears to be drone control equipment. But experience had taught them that with organizations like the Águila Negra, success was never final. There would be consequences, responses, adaptations. Maintain perimeter security, Reeves ordered. This is just the beginning. The aftermath of a major raid always brought its own challenges. Evidence processing teams worked methodically through the seized vehicles and warehouses, while tactical units maintained security perimeters, watching for any counterattack or attempt to reclaim the seized materials. Confirmed cache of experimental weapons in the primary convoy, Torres reported, her voice reflecting professional awe mixed with concern. Design specifications match what we recovered from La Paloma's database. They were moving these to a buyer. Patel coordinated with the forensics team, documenting every detail. The Águila Negra's record-keeping was meticulous, a double-edged sword that now worked against them. Second warehouse inventory showing significant tech components, Johnson added from his location. Military-grade communications equipment, specialized electronics, some with serial numbers suggesting Russian or Chinese origin. The scale of the operation became clearer with each discovery. Shipping manifests revealed connections to legitimate businesses across 4 states, all carefully masked through layers of shell companies and seemingly innocent purchases. "Sir, you need to see these documents," Chen called to Reeves. "They're using a trucking company with government contracts to move product across state lines." "How many active contracts?" Reeves asked, already sensing the implications. "At least 15, Chen confirmed, checking the paperwork, most involving military-based deliveries. The evidence painted a disturbing picture of corruption reaching into unexpected places. Customs officials, contract officers, local law enforcement, all compromised through a combination of threats, blackmail, and bribes. Third convoy's cargo matches our intelligence, Johnson confirmed after completing his inventory. Advanced targeting systems and prototype weapons. Street value impossible to determine since there's no legal market for this technology, but military acquisition value would be in the hundreds of millions. The task force had dealt a significant blow to the Águila Negra's operation, but Reeves knew to expect retaliation. This wasn't a typical cartel concerned primarily with drug trafficking. This was an organization with military training and strategic thinking. "Increase surveillance on known associates," he ordered. They'll be looking to rebuild quickly. We need to identify their fallback positions before they can regroup. The interrogations began as evidence processing continued. Lower-level operators were already offering information, hoping to cut deals with prosecutors in exchange for reduced sentences. "They're scared," Johnson observed after interviewing 3 captured drivers. "More than usual for foot soldiers, because they know what's coming," Torres replied. "The Águila Negra doesn't tolerate failure. These guys know too much to be allowed to talk." The captured ledgers revealed the cartel's expansion plans. New routes, new contacts, new territories, all now compromised by the raid. "Found their payroll records," Chen announced, holding up a laptop recovered from one of the convoy leaders. "Names, dates, amounts, banking details. It's all here." "Pass it to financial crimes," Reeves instructed. "Follow the money trail while it's fresh." The warehouse computers yielded more intelligence: email correspondence, shipping schedules, contact lists, all encrypted, but not beyond recovery with the technical resources of the task force. They're running legitimate shipments alongside the illegal cargo, Patel noted, analyzing the shipping manifests. "Makes it harder to spot the contraband when it's buried in a larger shipment of legal goods." "Smart," Johnson admitted. "Customs can't inspect every container. The numbers work in their favor." The investigation expanded as new connections emerged. Each piece of evidence led to more questions, more targets, more operations to plan. "Sir, phone records show regular contact with someone at the Port Authority in San Diego," Chen reported, highlighting a pattern in the communication logs. "Get me everything on that connection," Reeves ordered. "Could be our next target." The captured drivers proved to be valuable sources of intelligence. Years of running the same routes had made them observant, aware of details their bosses never considered important. "They've got safe houses here, here, and here," one driver explained, marking locations on a map. "They change them every few months, but always keep at least 3 active." Patel cross-referenced the information with their surveillance data. Patterns match. These locations have shown irregular activity consistent with cartel operations. The task force began planning follow-up operations, knowing they had to move quickly before the Águila Negra could adapt to the loss of their distribution network. "We hit them hard, but they're not finished," Reeves reminded his team during a briefing. "This is when they're most dangerous, when they're wounded and desperate." Reports started coming in from street-level informants. The disruption in the Águila Negra's operations was already creating tension among smaller criminal organizations seeking to fill the power vacuum. Territory disputes breaking out in sectors 4 and 7, Johnson reported, marking the hotspots on their tactical map. Local gangs trying to move in on what they perceive as undefended territory. "Expected," Reeves nodded. "Keep monitoring. Could lead us to more of their operation if they move to defend their territory." The evidence processing continued through the night, each new discovery adding to their understanding of the Águila Negra's organization and capabilities. "Found their quality control protocols," Torres announced, holding up a detailed manual recovered from the warehouse. "They're testing weapons at 3 different stages of production, very professional setup." "That matches their reputation," Chen agreed. "They don't stay on top by selling inferior products. Their whole operation is built on reliability and superior technology." Financial analysts began tracking the money trails, following complex webs of transactions designed to hide the operation's true scale. Multiple shell companies, all legitimate on paper, one analyst reported. They've got good accountants. Better lawyers too, Johnson added, reviewing the corporate structures. Everything structured to maintain deniability in case one part of the operation is compromised. The task force knew they had to work quickly. The Águila Negra would be mobilizing resources, calling in favors, preparing their response to the raid. Increase surveillance on all known associates, Reeves ordered. Watch for unusual movements, unexpected meetings, anyone trying to leave town suddenly. Already seeing activity, Patel confirmed, monitoring their surveillance network. 3. Potential high-level meetings identified in the last hour, all at locations previously unknown to us. The investigation was entering its most critical phase. They had wounded the Águila Negra, but experience taught them that wounded cartels were the most dangerous, especially one with military training and advanced tactical knowledge. All teams maintain alert status, Reeves commanded. They'll try to rebuild quickly. We need to be ready. The night wore on as evidence mounted, and the task force prepared for the inevitable response. This was just the beginning of a longer war against an adversary unlike any they had faced before. The first signs of the Águila Negra's response emerged within 48 hours. Small-time arms dealers disappeared from their usual haunts. Storage facilities were emptied of inventory. Known associates began moving their families to new locations. They're clearing the board, Patel observed, tracking the movements across their surveillance network, getting civilians out of the way. Standard procedure before retaliation, Johnson agreed. They're preparing for war. Surveillance teams reported increased activity at previously dormant signal intercept from location Echo, Patel announced, his voice cutting through the tense atmosphere in the mobile command center. Encrypted transmission, but the pattern matches known Águila Negra protocols. Reeves moved quickly to Patel's station, studying the data scrolling across the monitor. 3 days had passed since the coordinated raids, and the cartel's response was beginning to take shape. Can you pinpoint the source? Reeves asked, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of the screen. Working on it, Patel replied, fingers dancing across the keyboard. They're bouncing the signal through multiple relays, but there's a pattern to it. Give me 5 minutes. Director Hargrove entered the command center, his expression grim. We've got movement at 3 of their known safe houses in Tucson. Local PD reports unusual activity consistent with evacuation protocols. They're consolidating, Torres observed, looking up from her own terminal. Pulling back to defensible positions, classic military strategy when facing a superior force. The task force had been working around the clock, processing the mountain of evidence seized during the raids, while simultaneously monitoring for the cartel's inevitable counterattack. Intelligence analysts had identified 7 key lieutenants in the Águila Negra's North American operation, 3 of whom were still at large. Got it, Patel announced triumphantly. Transmission originated from a property outside Nogales, registered to a company called Southwestern Agricultural Imports. Another shell corporation, Johnson confirmed, pulling up the property records. Purchased 18 months ago through a holding company based in Panama. Satellite imagery shows significant security measures, perimeter fencing, guard posts, regular patrol patterns. Looks like we found their fallback command center, Reeves said, studying the satellite photos. They've been preparing this position for months. Torres joined them, examining the surveillance data. The architecture suggests defensive planning. Multiple exit routes, Clear fields of fire, elevated observation points. Whoever designed this was thinking like a military commander, not a cartel boss. That's because they are military, Hargrove reminded them. Or were. Intelligence suggests their leadership includes former Special Forces personnel from at least 3 countries. The discovery presented both an opportunity and a challenge. Finding the Águila Negra's alternate command center was a crucial breakthrough, but approaching such a well-fortified position would require careful planning. We need to get eyes inside before we make any moves, Reeves decided. Patel, see if you can access their security systems remotely. Johnson, coordinate with Border Patrol. I want surveillance on every access road within 10 miles of that property. There's something else, Torres said, her expression troubled as she reviewed data from the sea servers. According to these shipping records, they were moving significant quantities of specialized electronics to this location over the past 6 months. Components that match what we found in their weapons manufacturing operation at La Paloma. They're setting up another production facility, Reeves concluded, planning for continuity of operations in case their primary site was compromised. Which is exactly what happened, Hargrove noted. These people think several moves ahead. A junior analyst approached with a tablet displaying newly decoded communications. Sir, we've decrypted some of the messages from their internal network. They're planning something called Operation Phoenix, set to begin in 72 hours. Reeves took the tablet, scanning the fragmentary information. Multiple targets, synchronized timeline, references to cleaning house, and permanent resolution of security compromises. They're planning to eliminate everyone they suspect of cooperating with us, Torres translated grimly, including their own people, and probably some of ours, Johnson added. The implications were clear. The Águila Negra wasn't just regrouping, they were preparing to eliminate potential weaknesses while demonstrating their continued power. We need to move fast, Reeves decided. Hargrove, I need authorization for a comprehensive surveillance operation on the Nogales property. Drones, satellite coverage, signal intelligence, everything we can get without alerting them to our presence. You'll have it, Hargrove assured him. I'll coordinate with Homeland Security and the NSA for additional resources. Torres, Johnson, I want a detailed tactical assessment of the property. Approaches, vulnerabilities, defensive capabilities. Patel, see what you can pull from their communication networks without triggering their security protocols. The team dispersed to their tasks, each understanding the gravity of the situation. They had dealt the Águila Negra a significant blow, but the cartel's response could prove even more dangerous if not contained quickly. Reeves remained at the central, tactical display, studying the patterns of movement they detected across the southwestern United States. The Águila Negra's operations were shifting, adapting to the new reality created by the raids. What are you planning? He muttered, as if the digital map might reveal the cartel's intentions. Hargrove joined him after coordinating additional resources. You've got that look, Reeves. What look is that, sir? The one that says you're seeing something the rest of us are missing. Reeves gestured to the display. Their reaction isn't what I expected. They're not lashing out blindly. They're not even focusing primarily on rebuilding their distribution network. They're securing something else. What? I'm not sure yet. But these movement patterns, he traced a finger across several locations. They're protecting specific assets, high-value personnel or material being relocated with professional security protocols. This isn't just about territory or product. They're safeguarding something more valuable. Like what? Hargrove pressed. That's what we need to find out, Reeves replied. Because whatever it is, it's important enough to divert resources away from their core operation during a crisis. And that makes it important to us. As the sun set over the desert, casting long shadows across the command center, the task force prepared for the next phase of their operation against an adversary whose true capabilities they were only beginning to understand. The desert night was still, the silence broken only by the distant call of a coyote as Special Agent Diana Torres adjusted her position in the observation post overlooking the Aguila Negra's Nogales compound. 48 hours of surveillance had yielded valuable intelligence, guard rotations, security measures, vehicle movements, but the facility's true purpose remained elusive. Movement at the east entrance, Torres reported quietly into her secure comms. 2 SUVs approaching the gate. From a secondary observation point half a mile away, Johnson confirmed the sighting. Visual match with vehicles previously identified at La Paloma, possible high-value transport. The task force had established a perimeter of surveillance around the compound, using a combination of human observers and technical assets to build a complete picture of the facility's operations. Drone footage, captured during carefully timed flights to avoid detection, had mapped the exterior layout in detail, revealing sophisticated security measures including motion sensors, infrared cameras, and what appeared to be signal jammers. Gate. Opening, Torres narrated. Security protocol consistent with previous observations. 2-man teams checking vehicle undercarriage and interior before granting access. Through her high-powered optics, she observed a figure emerging from the lead SUV, tall, military-bearing, moving with the confident authority of someone accustomed to command. Possible HVT exiting first vehicle, she reported, capturing images with her specialized camera. Male, approximately 6 feet, athletic build, age estimate late 40s to early 50s. Can you get a clear facial image? Reeves asked from the mobile command center. Negative. Subject is maintaining awareness of sightlines. Deliberately, keeping face turned away from potential observation points. Professional, Johnson commented from his position. He's trained in counter-surveillance. The figure moved quickly into the main building, followed by 4 others who maintained a protective formation around him. Their movements were disciplined, coordinated, the hallmarks of professional security personnel rather than typical cartel muscle. Second vehicle occupants remaining with vehicles, Torres continued. 4 individuals, all armed, maintaining perimeter security. These aren't ordinary bodyguards. Formation and alert posture suggest specialized training. Back at the command center, Patel coordinated the incoming surveillance data, compiling it into a comprehensive assessment. Based on signal analysis, there was a spike in communications activity just before those vehicles arrived. They were expecting this visit, and it triggered some kind of elevated security protocol. Reeves studied the patterns emerging from days of observation. This is something significant. The security posture, the communications spike, the counter-surveillance awareness, whoever just arrived is high level, possibly leadership. The intelligence gathered from the La Paloma raids had revealed fragments of the Aguila Negra's organizational structure, but the identities of the highest level leaders remained elusive. Unlike traditional cartels that often built their reputation around charismatic figureheads, The Águila Negra operated with a degree of anonymity that suggested military or intelligence backgrounds. Anything from our signal intercepts? Reeves asked Patel. Nothing clear. They've tightened their communications security since the raids. Most transmissions are heavily encrypted, and they're using frequency-hopping protocols that make sustained monitoring difficult. Hargrove joined them, reviewing the latest surveillance imagery. What do we think they're doing in there? Based on the equipment deliveries we've observed, they're setting up another manufacturing operation, Reeves replied. But there's more happening. The security protocols, the personnel movements. This isn't just a production facility. They're protecting something specific. Torres's voice came through the comms again. New development. Work crews are moving. Equipment from a storage building to the main structure. Looks like specialized electronics, similar to components observed at La Paloma. Through her observation scope, she could see teams of workers carefully transferring crates and equipment under the watchful eyes of armed guards. The operation was being conducted with precision and urgency. They're accelerating their timeline, Reeves observed. Whatever Operation Phoenix involves, they're moving faster than anticipated. Hargrove's expression darkened. We can't wait for a comprehensive tactical plan. If they're preparing a major operation, we need to move before they can execute. Agreed. Reeves nodded. But we need to be smart about this. They're expecting some kind of response from us after the raids. They'll have contingencies in place. The surveillance continued through the night, with observation teams documenting every movement, every delivery, every security rotation. By dawn, a clearer picture had emerged. Based on our observations and the intelligence from La Paloma, I believe they're establishing an alternate command and manufacturing center, Reeves explained during the morning briefing. But they're also preparing for offensive operations, what they're calling Operation Phoenix, likely targeting individuals they suspect of providing information to law enforcement. Cleaning house, Johnson nodded grimly. And sending a message, Torres added. Demonstrate their power, re-establish their reputation after the raids. The question is, who's on their target list? Hargrove asked. Patel had been analyzing patterns in the cartel's operations based on the seized data. According to their operational history, they typically focus on 3 categories of targets during security compromises: internal threats, external collaborators, and symbolic targets to demonstrate their reach. Symbolic targets, Reeves repeated, thoughtfully. Government facilities, law enforcement, judiciary. All possible, Patel confirmed, but they're strategic. They choose targets that maximize impact while minimizing risk to their core operations. The tactical planning continued throughout the day, with teams preparing for both defensive and offensive operations. Protection details were assigned to potential targets, including cooperating witnesses and key law enforcement personnel involved. In the case, as evening approached, Torres reported new activity at the Nogales compound, increased movement. 3 transport trucks arriving through the north entrance, personnel loading equipment, and what appears to be weapons cases. They're mobilizing, Reeves realized. Operation Phoenix is launching. The next hours were a flurry of activity as the task force tracked multiple vehicles departing the compound, heading in different directions. First group heading north toward Tucson, Johnson reported. Second convoy moving east, appears to be splitting up to avoid detection. Patel, get me satellite coverage on all major routes, Reeves ordered. Torres, maintain observation on the compound, We need to know who's still there and who's left. As the tracking operation expanded, a disturbing pattern emerged. The Águila Negra teams weren't just heading to random locations. They were moving with purpose towards specific destinations. "Sir, I've cross-referenced their routes with potential targets," Patel announced, his voice tense. 3 teams are heading toward addresses associated with individuals who testified in previous cartel cases. 2 others appear to be moving toward federal law enforcement facilities in Phoenix and Tucson. "And the 6th team?" Reeves asked, noting the pattern on the tracking display. Patel's expression was grim. "Based on their current trajectory, they're heading toward the courthouse, where we're holding the prisoners from the La Paloma raid." The implications were clear. This wasn't just a security operation, it was a coordinated strike intended to eliminate witnesses, intimidate law enforcement, and possibly free captured members. "All units mobilize," Hargrove ordered. "Coordinate with local law enforcement and federal protective services. I want security enhanced at all potential targets immediately." "We can't cover everything," Reeves pointed out. "They've deliberately spread their operations to stretch our resources. Classic military tactic." "Then we prioritize," Hargrove decided. "Human life first. Secure the witnesses and any personnel at risk, then the courthouse and detain suspects." "And the compound?" Torres asked through the comms. "It's still active, still operational." Reeves considered the tactical situation. "We can't hit everything at once. We need to neutralize the immediate threats to life, then circle back to the source. Johnson, coordinate with tactical teams to intercept the convoy heading to the courthouse. Torres, maintain surveillance on the compound. We need to know if anyone else leaves or arrives." "What about the high-value target who arrived earlier?" Torres asked. "Still no visual confirmation of departure." "Then he's still there," Reeves concluded, "and that's our end game. First, we stop their field operations. Then we take down their command." The night erupted into coordinated action as tactical teams deployed to intercept the Águila Negra strike forces. The cartel had planned carefully, but so had the task force. What the Águila Negra couldn't know, was just how much intelligence had been recovered from the La Paloma raid. "Convoy 1 intercepted on Highway 10, came the report from the tactical team leader. "Resistance encountered, situation contained." Similar reports followed from other interception points. The Águila Negra teams had been prepared for resistance, but not for the level of coordination they encountered as law enforcement moved against all 6 teams simultaneously. 5 of 6 teams neutralized, Hargrove announced as the reports came in. Courthouse team engaged in standoff with tactical response. Negotiators en route. It was a significant victory, but Reeves knew it wasn't over. The compound in Nogales remained active, and whoever had arrived earlier, the apparent high-value target, was still there. Time to take the fight to them, Reeves decided, before they can regroup. The tactical briefing was tense, the air heavy with the knowledge that they were about to move against an adversary unlike any they had faced before. The mobile command center had been relocated to a secure position just outside the operational radius of the Nogales compound, allowing for faster response time while remaining beyond the reach of the Águila Negra's surveillance systems. Based on our intelligence, the compound is currently housing approximately 30 personnel, including what we believe to be high-level leadership, Reeves explained, indicating positions on the tactical display. Security consists of 2 perimeter layers, outer fence with motion sensors and cameras, inner defensive positions with armed guards. Their communication system appears to be self-contained, reducing vulnerability to external disruption. The tactical team leaders, veterans of high-risk operations against heavily armed adversaries, studied the compound layout with professional assessment. The approach routes are limited, Torres added, highlighting the terrain features surrounding the facility. They've positioned themselves with clear fields of fire on all sides. Direct assault would be costly. Which is why we're not going to give them a direct assault, Reeves responded. They're expecting conventional tactics. We need to give them something different. The plan that emerged over the next hour was unconventional, but built on sound tactical principles. Rather than a frontal assault that would play to the Aguila, Negra's defensive strengths, Reeves proposed a multi-phase operation designed to create confusion and divide their attention. Phase 1, signal disruption, he outlined. We use specialized EMP devices to temporarily disable their communications and security systems. Phase 2, diversionary entry points, north and east sides simultaneously, drawing their defensive resources. Phase 3, primary insertion team enters through the underground drainage system we identified from the satellite imagery. Johnson, who would be leading one of the diversionary teams, studied the drainage access point. Tight quarters, single file movement only, but undefended, Reeves pointed out. Their focus is on conventional entry points. The drainage system wasn't designed as an access route. It's an architectural feature they likely consider a non-issue from a security perspective. Hargrove reviewed the plan, considering the risks and potential outcomes. This is high risk, even with the element of surprise. What makes you think they haven't considered and prepared for every approach? Because no defense is perfect, Reeves replied. And their psychology works against them here. Their military background makes them think in terms of traditional defensive positions. They're expecting us to come at them head-on, using superior numbers. They won't expect us to mirror their own unconventional approach. The planning continued, with contingencies developed for various scenarios. Equipment was prepared, communications, protocols established, medical support positioned. Every aspect of the operation was reviewed multiple times, seeking any potential weakness or oversight. As the preparations reached their final stages, Reeves addressed the assembled teams. What we're facing isn't a typical cartel. These are trained professionals with military experience and advanced equipment, but they're not invincible. They've been one step ahead because they think differently. They bring military strategy to criminal operations. Tonight, we beat them at their own game. The operation began at 0200 hours, under the cover of a moonless night. The first phase, signal disruption, was executed with precision. Specialized equipment deployed on the perimeter to create targeted electromagnetic interference that would temporarily disable electronic security systems without alerting the occupants to the specific nature of the problem. EMP devices activated, Patel confirmed from the command center. Monitoring indicates disruption successful. Their external communications are down. Within the compound, the Aguila Negra security teams would be responding to what appeared to be a system malfunction, a situation that would demand attention but not immediately suggest an assault was imminent. Diversionary teams in position, Johnson reported from the northern approach point, ready to execute on command. Primary insertion team ready, Torres confirmed from her position near the drainage access point. She would be leading the main assault team, while Reeves coordinated the operation from the mobile command center, providing real-time intelligence and tactical guidance. Execute Phase 2, Reeves ordered. The diversionary teams moved simultaneously, creating the impression of a conventional assault on two sides of the compound. Flashbangs, smoke grenades, and targeted suppressive fire generated the chaos and noise of a major breach attempt, drawing the compound's defensive resources toward these perceived threats. Inside the facility, alarms would be sounding, security personnel rushing to defensive positions, leaders issuing commands, all focused on the visible, audible threat at their perimeter. Diversionary engagement active, Johnson reported through the tactical comms. Receiving expected defensive response. Multiple armed personnel moving to reinforce north and east positions. Primary team, execute Phase 3, Reeves directed. Torres led her team swiftly through the drainage system, moving in single file through the narrow passage that led beneath the compound's defensive perimeter. Their specialized equipment, including night vision, tactical communications, and breaching tools, had been selected for this specific approach. Breach point reached, Torres reported as they arrived at the interior access point, preparing to enter main facility. While the compound's attention remained focused on the diversionary attacks, Torres's team emerged inside the perimeter, quickly moving to secure their immediate area before advancing toward the main structure. "We're in," she confirmed, proceeding to primary target. The team moved with the coordinated precision of extensively trained operators, clearing rooms systematically as they advanced toward the central portion of the compound where intelligence indicated the command center would be located. "Contact," came the terse report as they encountered the first resistance. "Two security personnel neutralized," proceeding. Throughout the facility, confusion was spreading as the Aguila Negra security forces began to realize that the perimeter attacks were a diversion from the real threat that had materialized inside their defenses. "They're adapting," Patel warned, monitoring the compound's internal communications through the limited channels they could access. Security elements repositioning to interior defense. Torres and her team quickened their pace, knowing that their advantage of surprise was diminishing with each passing moment. They moved through corridors lined with what appeared to be advanced communications equipment and technical workstations, confirming the facility's role as an alternate command center. "Target acquired," Torres reported as they reached a reinforced door marked with security warnings in Spanish. "Appears to be primary command room, preparing to breach. Be advised," Reeves warned. "Intelligence suggests high-value personnel may be present. Secure and identify all occupants." The breach was executed with precision, the door giving way to a shaped charge specifically designed to minimize collateral damage while providing immediate access. Torres's team flowed into the room in standard tactical formation, securing the space within seconds. "Command center secured," she reported. 4 individuals in custody, including one matching the description of the high-value target observed. Earlier, significant intelligence materials present. "Secure everything," Reeves ordered. "Documents, electronic devices, any materials that could provide insight into their operations." With the command center secured, the operation shifted to clearing the remainder of the facility. The diversionary teams, having successfully drawn attention away from the primary insertion, now moved to support the interior operation, creating a coordinated squeeze that left the Águila Negra defenders with diminishing options. Resistance weakening, Johnson reported as his team breached the main entrance. They're realizing the situation is compromised. Room by room, sector by sector, the compound was secured. Some defenders surrendered when they recognized the futility of continued resistance. Others fought to the end, displaying the discipline and determination of their military backgrounds. All primary sectors secured. Torres confirmed after the final room had been cleared. Facility under complete control. Multiple prisoners secured, including what appears to be technical specialists and operational leadership. In the command center, evidence of the facility's purpose was abundant. Advanced communications equipment, tactical planning displays, personnel files, operational records, all the elements of a sophisticated criminal enterprise laid bare. "Sir, you need to see this," Torres called to Reeves as he entered the secured command center. She indicated a tactical display showing a network of similar facilities across North and Central America, each marked with operational status indicators. "It's bigger than we thought," Reeves observed grimly. "This isn't just one cartel. It's a network of interconnected operations spanning multiple countries." The high-value target, now secured and identified as former Colonel Alejandro Vega, ex-Mexican Special Forces, sat silently in custody, his expression unreadable as the task force processed the scene. "He's not the top," Torres noted quietly to Reeves. "The organizational charts we found show at least 2 levels above him. But he's high enough to have valuable intelligence," Reeves replied. "And his capture, along with the disruption of Operation Phoenix, will force the leadership to respond, potentially exposing more of their structure." As dawn broke over the desert, the full scale of the operation became clear. The Águila Negra's alternate command center had been neutralized, key personnel captured, and critical intelligence secured. Operation Phoenix had been dismantled before. It could fully activate, but the evidence recovered from the facility confirmed what Reeves had suspected. They had struck a significant blow against the cartel, but they were still facing an adversary with resources, training, and a global reach that extended far beyond what they had initially understood. "This isn't the end," Hargrove observed as they surveyed the captured facility. "It's barely the beginning." "No," Reeves agreed. "But it's a start. And now we have what we need to take the next step." The interrogation room was sparse. Table, chairs, recording equipment, the bare essentials required for the task at hand. Colonel Alejandro Vega sat with perfect military posture, his expression carefully neutral as he observed Reeves entering the room. 3 days had passed since the raid on the Nogales compound. The intelligence gathered from the operation had already led to follow-up actions against Águila Negra assets across 3 states. But the most valuable potential source of information remained the man sitting across the table, a high-ranking officer in the cartel's organizational structure. "Colonel Vega," Reeves began, placing a thin file on the table between them. "Or do you prefer Senor Vega, now that you've left military service behind?" Vega's eyes flickered briefly to the file, then back to Reeves's face. "Former rank is customary in both professional and social settings," he replied, in perfect, barely accented English. "It would be appropriate to maintain the convention." "Professional courtesy," Reeves nodded. "Interesting concept from someone who betrayed his oath to serve and protect." Vega showed no reaction to the provocation. "Is that what this conversation will be?" Moral judgments from a man who knows nothing of my circumstances or motivations? I know more than you might think, Reeves countered, opening the file. Alejandro Vega, graduate of Mexico's military academy with honors, served 15 years in special operations, including joint training with U.S. forces at Fort Bragg, decorated for actions against cartel operations in Sinaloa and Michoacán, disappeared from official records in 2017, presumed either dead or compromised. A matter of public record, Vega observed dismissively. What isn't public record, Reeves continued, is how a decorated officer with an impeccable service history transitions to becoming a key figure in what might be the most sophisticated criminal organization we've ever encountered. The slightest smile touched Vega's lips. Perhaps it's not the transition you imagine, meaning perspectives change depending on where you stand, Agent Reeves. The line between security operations and criminal enterprise is not always as clear as your American legal system pretends. Reeves studied the man across from him, recognizing the disciplined mind behind the calm exterior. Vega was probing, testing, seeking to understand his interrogator's approach. Let's skip the philosophical debate, Reeves suggested. We have you on multiple federal charges that carry life sentences. Your organization's operational security has been compromised, key personnel captured, critical infrastructure dismantled. Your position is untenable, and yet you're here talking to me, Vega observed, which suggests you need something that justifies offering considerations. So let us dispense with the pretense, Agent Reeves. What do you want, and what are you prepared to offer? Reeves leaned forward slightly. We want the leadership structure, names, locations, operational details. We want the technological source for the advanced weapon systems you've been developing. We want your client list, who you're selling, what they're buying, how the transactions are structured. A comprehensive betrayal of my organization, Vega summarized. And in exchange, considerations regarding sentencing, placement in a facility that minimizes risk from both external and internal threats, potential relocation for family members who might be endangered by your cooperation. Vega appeared to consider the offer, though Reeves suspected the calculation had begun the moment of his capture. Men like Vega, professionals with military training and organizational discipline, always prepared for contingencies, including capture. Your offer reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of what the Águila Negra represents, Vega finally responded. You perceive us as a traditional cartel, perhaps more sophisticated but ultimately motivated by the same factors. Power, wealth, territory. That is an error in assessment that will continue to handicap your operations against us. Then enlighten me, Reeves invited, recognizing the opening. Vega studied him for a moment, as if assessing whether Reeves was capable of understanding what he was about to share. The Águila Negra is not a cartel in the traditional sense. It is a response to a systemic failure, the collapse of legitimate authority and security structures across multiple nations. What you call criminal enterprise, we recognize as necessary organization in the absence of effective governance. You're claiming to be some kind of alternative government? Reeves asked skeptically. I'm stating that when traditional institutions fail to provide security, stability, and opportunity, alternative structures will emerge to fill the void, Vega corrected. The regions where we operate have experienced decades of corruption, violence, and institutional failure. We provide what the recognized authorities cannot or will not: Consistency, predictability, protection. Through violence and intimidation. Through strength and consequence, Vega countered. No different from how nations maintain their borders and enforce their laws. The methods differ only in official sanction, not in practical application. Reeves recognized the argument, a sophisticated version of the justification used by organizations throughout history to rationalize the exercise of power outside traditional authority. And the weapons manufacturing, the advanced technology, the global client list, those are all for maintaining local stability. A hint of respect showed in Vega's eyes, acknowledgement that Reeves wasn't dismissing his explanation outright. Resources require revenue. Influence requires capability. In a world where official channels are closed to us, alternative markets become necessary. We developed expertise and products that met specific needs. The market responded accordingly. You became arms dealers. We became specialists in security solutions, Vega corrected. The distinction matters, Agent Reeves. We don't sell to terrorists or extremists. We maintain strict controls on end users and applications. Our technologies are designed for precision, minimizing collateral impact. Tell that to the civilians caught in the crossfire when your precision weapons are deployed in urban environments, Reeves challenged. Vega's expression hardened slightly. No system is perfect, but our record for minimizing civilian casualties exceeds that of many recognized military operations. We understand the value of precision because we understand the cost of indiscriminate force. The conversation continued for hours, a complex dance of question and answer, challenge and response. Vega revealed selected details, enough to demonstrate value as a source without compromising the core of his organization, while Reeves pressed for specifics that could lead to actionable intelligence. Your raids have disrupted our North American distribution network, Vega acknowledged at one point. But you've barely touched our production capabilities or our primary client relationships. What you've seen is one branch of a much larger organization. Then, help us understand the full picture, Reeves urged. Vega smiled thinly. That would require you to understand contexts and motivations that your agency's perspective doesn't accommodate. The Águila Negra exists because conventional security frameworks have failed. Dismantling us without addressing those failures simply creates space for something worse to emerge. That sounds like rationalization for criminal activity. It is an assessment based on observable patterns in regions with security vacuums. Vega countered. Nature abhors a vacuum, Agent Reeves. So does power. As the interrogation approached its 6th hour, Reeves changed tactics. Let's talk about La Paloma, the underground facility, the advanced weapons manufacturing, the command center coordinating global operations. That goes well beyond filling a security vacuum. For the first time, Vega showed genuine surprise. You found the command center? We found everything, Reeves confirmed, recognizing the vulnerability in Vega's carefully maintained facade. The weapons prototypes, the client lists, the organizational charts. We know about the Russian technical advisors, the European distribution networks, the specialized training programs for other organizations. Vega's expression shifted subtly as he recalculated his position. Then you understand the scale of what you're confronting. We're beginning to, Reeves acknowledged, which is why your cooperation could be valuable, both to us and to you. The former colonel seemed to reach a decision. I will provide certain information regarding our North American operations and selected technical details about our weapons systems. In exchange, I want formal assurances regarding my family's security and my own placement within your federal system. Why the change of heart? Not change, adaptation, Vega corrected. If you truly have the intelligence you claim from La Paloma, certain aspects of our operation are already compromised. I'm simply minimizing losses while preserving core assets. And your loyalty to the organization is to its principles and purpose, not its temporary organizational structure, Vega replied smoothly. The Águila Negra will adapt, as it has before. My cooperation on limited matters doesn't fundamentally change that reality. Reeves recognized the calculated nature of Vega's offer. He would provide enough information to appear cooperative, to secure the protections he sought without truly compromising the organization's ability to continue operations. I'll need more than vague assurances of certain information, Reeves pressed. Specific intelligence about leadership, operational centers, planned activities. I can provide details on 3 regional commanders and their territories, technical specifications for 2 weapon systems currently in distribution, and intelligence regarding planned operations against competing organizations in the southwestern. A corridor, Vega offered, sufficient to demonstrate value without compromising core security. The negotiation continued, each man aware of the stakes and limitations of their position. By the time Reeves left the interrogation room, they had reached a preliminary agreement. Vega would provide specific intelligence in exchange for defined considerations. He's playing us, Torres observed, as they reviewed the interrogation recordings later that evening, offering enough to secure protection without actually compromising their central operations. Of course he is, Reeves agreed, but even calculated. Cooperation gives us more than we had, and every piece of information provides connections to other parts of their network. So we take what he's offering? We take it, and we use it to find what he's hiding, Reeves confirmed. Because we're calling it Operation Thunderbird, Hargrove announced, surveying the assembled task force members. The most comprehensive joint operation against an international criminal organization in agency history. 6 months had passed since Vega's capture. His calculated cooperation had provided enough intelligence to systematically dismantle the Águila Negra's North American network. Each raid led to new information. Each captured operative revealed another piece of the puzzle. The intelligence points to a central command facility in the Sierra Madre Mountains, Reeves explained, highlighting the location on the tactical display. Satellite imagery confirms substantial construction activity over the past 3 years, consistent with their architectural patterns from La Paloma. Torres added, thermal imaging suggests multiple underground levels, advanced power generation, and approximately 60 personnel. This is their crown jewel, Reeves continued, the heart of their operation, housing their leadership council and primary research facilities. The high-risk nature of this operation requires unprecedented coordination, Hargrove emphasized. We'll be working with Mexican Special Forces, DEA, and intelligence assets from 3 allied nations. The preparation was meticulous. Weeks of surveillance, specialized equipment, personnel with unique skill sets. Nothing was left to chance. as they prepared to strike at the organization that had proven more sophisticated and dangerous than any cartel they had faced before. The helicopter blades cut through the mountain air as the joint assault team approached their target. Reeves checked his equipment one final time, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. 2 minutes to insertion, the pilot announced. No indication they've detected our approach. Torres sat across from him, her expression focused. The jammers are working. Their communications grid is dark. The intelligence Vega had provided, both intentionally and unwittingly, had revealed vulnerabilities in the cartel's security systems. Strategic weaknesses that would allow the strike team to penetrate defenses designed to repel conventional military forces. Remember, we need their leadership alive, Reeves reminded the team, and secure their research database intact. The helicopters descended rapidly into a small clearing half a mile from the compound. Teams deployed with practiced efficiency, moving through the dense forest toward their objective. Perimeter team in position, Johnson reported through the tactical comms. Surveillance confirms minimal external security. They're relying on location and technology rather than manpower. Perfect, Reeves acknowledged. Execute Phase 1. Specialized teams moved to neutralize the compound's external security systems, sensors, cameras, communications relays, creating blind spots that would allow the main assault team to approach undetected. Security systems compromised, Patel confirmed from his position with the technical support team. They're blind and deaf. The main assault commenced with precision that reflected months of planning and years of experience. Multiple teams breached the compound simultaneously from different points, overwhelming the defenders before they could organize an effective response. East Wing secured. West Section clear. Central Command approaching. The reports flowed in as the teams methodically secured the facility, encountering less resistance than expected. The element of surprise had been complete. Something's wrong, Reeves realized as they approached the Central Command area. The resistance is token at best, Torres nodded grimly. They knew we were coming. The Central Command room, when they finally breached it, confirmed their suspicions. The room was operational but abandoned. Computer systems wiped clean, documents removed, leadership nowhere to be found. Check the research wing, Reeves ordered urgently. The report came back quickly. Research facilities stripped, equipment removed. They've cleared out everything important. As the teams secured the remainder of the compound, the truth became clear. They had captured a shell, operational but emptied of anything truly valuable. Sir, Patel called from one of the few remaining computer terminals. I've accessed a cached message. It's addressed to you. Reeves approached the screen, reading the simple message with growing frustration. Agent Reeves, chess teaches us to think several moves ahead. Thank you for the lesson in adaptive strategy. Until our next game. Aguila Primera. They sacrificed this facility, Torres realized, deliberately. And Vega's cooperation was part of it, Reeves added, calculated to lead us here while they relocated their critical operations. Hargrove joined them, surveying the empty command center. So we've won nothing? We've won a battle, Reeves corrected. We've disrupted their North American networks, captured key personnel, seized significant assets. But they've adapted, relocated, preserved their core leadership and capabilities. This isn't over, Torres stated, determined. No, Reeves agreed, studying the message on the screen. It's just the beginning of a new phase. As they prepared, To extract from the compound, Reeves gazed across the mountain vista, knowing that somewhere beyond the horizon, the Águila Negra was already rebuilding, adapting, evolving. The war against the most sophisticated criminal organization they had ever encountered would continue. But for now, they had struck a significant blow, not the victory they had hoped for, but a critical step in a longer campaign. Next time, Reeves promised silently, we'll be ready for your next move. Before we continue this thrilling story, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Hit that subscribe button right now to be notified when the next part drops tomorrow. You won't want to miss what happens next in Operation Desert Eagle as Agent Reeves and his team continue their pursuit of the elusive Águila Negra cartel. If this story has captured your imagination, invite your friends to join our storytelling community. Share this video with anyone who loves intense action, strategic mind games, and high-stakes international intrigue. Tomorrow's continuation will reveal shocking new developments you absolutely can't miss. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, the best stories are those we experience together. See you tomorrow for the next chapter.